Hey everyone, on today's video we're going to be taking a look at the harmonic genius of Stevie Wonder and specifically the song Golden Lady. This song was on the 1973 album Inner Visions, and even though it was not released as a single, it's my favorite song on the album. The big hit songs from this album were Higher Ground, Living for the City, and Don't You Worry About a Thing. In the description box below, you'll find a link for a folder that contains free PDFs for today's video and also standard MIDI files. I have the standard MIDI files there for those of you that can't read music and want to learn about this. You can open it up in any DAW and follow this material in the piano roll editor. Once we're done going through Inner Visions, I'll show you how you can take some of the principles that I discuss in this video and use them to create your own original chord progressions. Hopefully you can take these chord progressions and use them as the basis for creating your own music. If you like this video, give a thumbs up. For more content, please subscribe, and to be notified, ring that bell. Please leave any comments or questions down below. If you'd like to support the channel, you can buy me a cup of coffee. There's a link for that also in the description box below. Thanks so much for watching, and let's get right into it. The song before Golden Lady is Living for the City, and there's this sort of piano interlude transitioning from Living for the City into Golden Lady. It's not really part of Golden Lady, but I've transcribed it here or done a rough transcription. It's sort of freely played, and maybe some of the rhythms aren't exactly right. But I've got, I think, the chord voicing's correct here. So let me play this for you, and then we'll talk about this, even though this isn't really part of the song. There are a couple of very interesting things here that we can analyze. It starts off with this ostinato. And what that is, if you look at the harmony or the notes, it outlines an A chord. It's got A, C sharp, and E, and a B up here as an add two. We're starting off with an A chord. And what we want to do eventually, if we go over to right here, this measure right here, is that we're moving to a G flat chord. So we're in an A tonality, and we're going to move to a G flat chord. And that motion in thirds is really important to the rest of the song. I'll show you several aspects of Stevie Wonder's employment of harmony to move in intervals of a third. Play this little ostinato at the beginning, and then right here at measure 5, which is the second line, we've got this chord. And that is an A triad in the right hand over a G in the left hand. So it's an A7 chord in third inversion. And then that moves to a D triad in the right hand with an F sharp in the bass. So it goes A7, D, and then he moves that D chord down a half step to D flat. And then the D flat right here becomes a C flat, which is the seventh of a D flat 7 chord, and that becomes a G flat. And then from that G flat, we're going to move eventually to the beginning of the song, which is an E flat. So we've moved from A to G flat, and then we're going to move eventually to E flat, right? All thirds. To get from the A to the G flat, you have that stepwise motion in the left hand, and you've got this series of chords in the right hand. A, D, D flat 7, G flat. Continues on with the stepwise motion, and instead of it being half steps, this time it's whole steps in the left hand. So the G flat, you can think of it as an F sharp. It's enharmonically equivalent. And then you go down a whole step in the left hand to an E, and you put a D triad above that. So that gives you an D over E, a slash chord, and then a C over D. And then a little scale motion starting in the middle of measure 8. And he holds on to that E There's a fermata over that. And that all resolves up a half step to this E flat major 9. Okay, so a couple of things here. Moving in thirds, and then these parallel slash chords. We'll explore those later in the video. At measure 10, we have the intro. He does something interesting here. He's got an F in the top note of the chords in the right hand. And while that F is playing in the top note of the right hand, you're going from E flat major, you're just going up the scale to the 2 chord, 2-7, 3-7, G minor, then 2-5, right? A minor 7 to a D sus chord or a C over D. And notice you got a C over D. You have a C over D here also. So you see how he ties that together, that little introduction with the actual verse. Now, while this is going on in the piano voicings, there's an organ playing a pedal point of a G over those chords. So while the chords are going, right, there's right, and that note, that G, is common to all of these chords. It's the 3rd of the E flat major 9th. It's the 9th of the F minor 7th, it's the tonic of the G minor 7th, and it's the 7th of the A minor 7th, and it's the 5th of the C chord over D. All right, now when the verse starts, Stevie does a little bit of work with the voicing in the right hand. He keeps the same chord progression as the intro, but instead of having an F in the top voice, he has a G in the top voice. The reason that he does this is he's singing and the melody is and the melody's based around a G. B flat, G, F, G, 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 F, G, G, B flat, G, F, G. So the melody goes from a G to a B flat, back to a G, F, and G, right? So you hear it like this. And that leads us to here. Now notice with the melody, it's interesting here. He's playing. Those notes are pretty close to each other on the piano keyboard, right? And they're part of the scale, but what they're not hitting is any kind of an A or an A flat. Even though an A flat fits over this F minor chord, it's dissonant to the E flat, the G minor, the A minor, and the C over D. So he's avoiding it. But one of the side effects of him avoiding it is that when he plays some sort of A pitch, and he changes that A pitch from an A flat to an A natural like he does here, it grabs your ear. So let me play the melody. This is at 22. I'll start from the second time through. Right? So we're filled with A's here. What's going on here? What he's doing eventually is that he wants to get to this B flat major chord as a temporary tonic. It's not really a modulation. He's just sort of tonicizing this B flat for a second because he's really moving through to this G flat major 9th right here. So again, E flat major 7th to G flat major 9th, moving in thirds, right? I talked about that earlier in the video. And what he's doing here is typically when you want to take the 5 chord, because B flat is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a chord based on the 5th scale degree of E flat, it would typically be a B flat 7 chord. But here it's a B flat major 7th chord. And how does he do that? Well, he introduces the A natural. So he gets rid of one of the naturals in the key of E flat, and that leaves you with a key signature of 2 flats, or B flat. That E flat major 7th here, instead of it being a tonic, is now a 4 chord of B flat. Now, typically when the 1 chord is a 7th moving to a different chord than the 2 chord, it's typically a dominant 7th moving to the 4 chord. So it's E flat 7. So let's say you're playing you're moving to the 4 chord from 1, and that would be the 5 of 4, the E flat 7, to an A flat. But here we're moving to the B flat major 7th. So, and now he goes down a whole step from that B flat major 7th, and he gives us a 2, 5, 1 in G flat major. So A flat minor 7th, D flat 7, and then to G flat major. So that's pretty cool. So let's play it right from measure 22, just the chords. This is a little bit unusual here, how we got to this G flat major 9th chord. And it's only unusual if you haven't studied popular music for the past 75 years. I'm going to bring out the sheet music to a song called Have You Met Miss Jones, which is an old standard song. And this is the bridge. I'll play it right from here. You'll see here in the bridge what the composer did was he went from same chord progression that Stevie used, and then he repeated it again a whole step lower to get to D major 7th. This might be another lesson, but in this particular song, this was the genesis of John Coltrane's Giant Steps. This is where he got the concept for creating that song, the bridge of this particular piece that's pretty well known in jazz history. Stevie Wonder was very influenced by jazz musicians. Wrote a song called Sir Duke about Duke Ellington after Duke passed away in 1974. And, you know, one of the things that Duke liked to do was move in thirds. If you take a look at a song like A Prelude to a Kiss, that song is in C major, and what you would get is on D minor, and right, I'm on C major, and then a 2, 5, 1 into E. In that particular song, which is a Duke Ellington song, he's in the key of C, and then the bridge, or the middle 8, is in the key of E major, a major third up. Major third, a lot, you can go to a minor third up, just motion in thirds, really interesting. And Stevie definitely is influenced by that, and it shows here because there's a lot of 2, 5, 1s going on here, and it's beautiful. So let's continue on with this. We've gotten here to the G flat major 9th, so let's take it from the 26th. What's really cool is the way he unfolds the melody over this. So we've got the 5th of E flat, the B flat, and then A, then A flat, D, B flat, and over the G major ninth, end on that major ninth. And then now we're going to F sharp minor, B, then to B11, another 2-5-1. You're taking that G flat major seventh and you're turning it into a minor seventh. B11th, A in the top, then keeping that A in the top. And now we're ready for the chorus. Common tones moving through all these different chords, using that A natural. It's very important. Really beautiful, really ingenious writing, very clever. Let's move on to the chorus. So the chorus, the melody's on a D, but the chords are right. So it's an 8-bar phrase here. And what we got going on basically for 2 bars is G minor with this descending line in the top. So the melody is, and then up a half step to A flat major seventh. And again, emphasizing that G, which is the major seventh of A flat. And then when we get over here, the melody is B flat, G, E flat, F, F sharp, or G flat, right? So, and again, the major seventh of that G major chord, and that F sharp, G flat. Same thing. So you see how he's sort of making a through line of these common tones, even many measures later, he's bringing them back in to sort of tie all this together. And now he wants to get from this G major down to E flat. So he does his Have You Met Miss Jones, F minor, B flat, back to the top. So the chorus again. All right, so structurally speaking, the verse is 16 bars long, and it's broken up into 2 sections of 8. You've got this first bit where it's the E flat, F minor, G minor, A to D. That gets repeated, and then the second time through is where all the motion starts from 26. You got E flat, B flat major 7th, then the 2-5 to G flat major 9th, then F sharp minor 7th, B11, another 2-5, and then down a whole step, another 2-5. And then the chorus is 8 bars long, and then this little 4-bar tag that will lead us back to the verse. So that's 12. So you've got 16, 8, and 4. Or even more specific, you've got 8, 8, 8, and 4 when you break the structures of the measures up. So I find that really interesting. We've got a lot of stuff here that we can dive into, a lot of principles that we can study and employ for ourselves to create our own progressions. So I've got a few examples. Let's take a look at those. In the first example, we're going to use the common tone in the top voice. And we're going to start off with the 3rd of the C major chord because we're in the key of C here. And I'm just going to play through this progression and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so C major 7th, 3rd is in the top, that E, then that E becomes the 9th of D minor 9. That's just what Stevie did, right? Now, instead of going up to E minor, this time I'm going to keep that E and I'm going to go to A minor 7th, and that E is now the 5th of that chord. And then use this kind of chord here. It's actually a B flat 13 sharp 11, but this is the way that Sibelius transcribed it. let's play that one more time with an accompaniment. Played around with changing some of the pitches the second time through. Let's take a look at this next one here, and let's go for a higher chord tone. So at measure 5, I have an A flat major 9th chord. So I've got A flat, G, C, E flat, and B flat. So I've got the 9th in the top. And then I'm going to move that down in whole steps to a G flat 13 chord. With the B flat becomes 3rd of G flat. And then I'm going to keep that and move down to an F minor 11th chord. The B flat is the 11th of F minor. Then down a whole step to E flat minor 9th. That becomes the 5th. And then to D7 sharp 9 with an augmented feel. We've got that B flat, which is really an A sharp. It's the sharp 5. And then to D flat 6, 9. So let me play that all the way through without talking. Over here, I've got these tenths in the left hand. If those are too difficult for you to play, you can just drop the bottom note up an octave, and then it would sound like... That's totally fine. And then the F minor 11th, that might be a little bit difficult, but that's the kind of chord that you can easy to roll and use the pedal to hold its notes down. Okay, so now moving to the 3rd scale degree at measure 9. So we're starting off with a G, and then we're going to end up at B flat, and then we're going to end up at B, and then we'll come back to G. So let's play it and then we'll talk about it. We've got G major 9th. We're going to go to C minor 9th. If we're in the key of G, that would be the minor 4 chord. And we're using that to start a 2-5-1 to B flat major 9th. So let's take a listen to the first 3 measures. And then if you wanted to put a melody to that, you could do something like... From that B flat major, we want to get up to B major 9th. So we go C sharp minor 7th, F sharp 9, make that top note chromatic to B major 9. So I'm going up a minor 3rd from the B flat major 9th to C sharp minor or D flat minor. And so using that as a 2 to start a 2-5-1 to B major. And then use the Miss Jones with the suspended chord here, much like Stevie. So let's play that whole progression again. Really beautiful progression, right? Moving to the next bit here, we've got major 7ths ascending in half steps, and we're going to use that 3rd relationship as our pivot chord to get that ascending action happening. Let me play this and then we'll talk about it. There's another song that maybe I'll go over at some point that Stevie did called Do I Do, where he does some motion like this in the bridge of the song right before Dizzy Gillespie comes in and plays. So let's take a look at this. D flat major 7th, E minor 7, A9, D major 7th, F minor 7th, B flat 7th, E flat major 7th. So from the D, going up a minor 3rd, using that as my pivot chord to start the 2-5-1 to E flat. Then again, F sharp minor, B7, E major 7th, And now we want to get back to D flat major 7th, just down half step, E flat minor 7, A flat 9, D flat major 7th. So that whole progression again. All right, so let's talk about the Miss Jones harmonies. So he just used them to go from that B flat down to G flat, but let's say we're starting in A and we want to end up back in A. How can we use that? Let's take a listen and then we'll talk about it. So we start off with A major 9th, and then we're doing G minor, C9 to F major 7th. And then that F major 7th, which is a major third lower than A major 9th and borrowed from the parallel minor, is the flat 6 of A. And we can use that to go to the 5 chord, which is an E7, A major 9th. And what I'm doing is I've got that the 9th in the top voice of the F major 7th chord, and then that 9th becomes the sharp 9 of the E7 chord with the sharp 5, flat 9. So that's nice. Now, this next example, we're using slash chords, and we're moving in whole steps like at the beginning of the piece, the introduction. Let me play this, and then we'll talk about it. And you can do that with a kind of an interesting rhythm like Stevie does in Summer Soft, which is kind of cool. You can do something like this. All right, so what do we got here? So we've got the A major 9th, and then we're moving everything down in whole steps. And instead of having a slash chord that's an F triad over G, I've made it an F major 7th over G, but I've kept the 5th as my thumb note. And then moving that whole structure down. And then this right here, the C flat major 7th over D flat going to D major 9th, that's like the beginning of Golden Lady. When you go from that piano interlude with the C over D to E flat, well, here we've got C flat over D flat. Okay, so that's a quick lesson on Golden Lady, an analysis of the song, the harmonies of the song, and how you can take those principles and expand upon them and increase your harmonic vocabulary and use that harmonic vocabulary to add interest to your music. You know, this is a little bit of an aside that gets off of this topic, but there are many ways to add sophistication to a piece of music. So let's talk about music that was popular in the 1970s, for example. There were a lot of progressive rock bands. There was Yes, there was Emerson, Lake and Palmer, there was very early Genesis, there were jam bands like the Allman Brothers. And each one of these groups did things that were incredibly sophisticated and sounded difficult, right? If you listen to some of Yes's music, there's odd time signatures, there's polyrhythms, there's very fast unison lines that are being played by the guitar and the keyboards. Keith Emerson is playing up and down the keyboards. You know, the same thing with Genesis. Long, involved structures of songs, long sections, and different songs that last 20 minutes. You know, very sophisticated, very difficult. With the Allman Brothers, you take a song like Whipping Post, starts out in 11, then the verse is in 6, and then it goes to 12/8. And then during the solos, the kinds of improvisations that Duane and Dickie were doing were very, very sophisticated for the early 1970s. Very, very influenced by Coltrane and Miles Davis and all that kind of modal jazz. But there's another kind of sophistication that really hits me here. I can appreciate and love all that music, but there's something about having really sophisticated harmonies underneath melodies that sound very simple and that are beautiful, and using those harmonies to structure the song and have different goals, to go from E flat as your tonic, then a quick tonicization of the B flat for a second, then to the G flat for a second, and then you're sort of moving from that G flat major, you turn it into a minor, a 2/5, then up a minor third, A, D, and now the chorus is in G minor. And then the chorus ends on a G major 7th with the major 7th in the melody. A lot of that kind of stuff. Very, very sophisticated on a different level. It's the kind of sophistication that makes a song like Prelude to a Kiss by Duke Ellington so incredible. The melody on a song like that, just a chromatic scale being filled in, right? An interval of fifth being filled in. But the chords, incredibly sophisticated. And that's how Stevie took a lesson from Duke and employed it into this kind of a song. So for you to take that kind of lesson from Stevie, you have to figure out the principles. What's going on? What are the techniques that he's using? And what are the implications of those techniques? And how can I employ them to come up with original music? So the second half of this, the second PDF, gives you a few examples of how you can derive new and fresh chord progressions that you can hopefully use in your songs. Anyway, if you like this video, give a thumbs up. For more content, please subscribe, and to be notified, ring that bell. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Leave any comments or questions down below. And if you want to support the channel, there's a link where you can buy me a cup of coffee down below. And don't forget the free PDF or standard MIDI files. Those are also linked down below. Thank you again so much for watching. I've been Pete Calandra, and I'll catch you on the next one.